Hello, and this is Peter Bell is Proud Malcontent. It's my live stream talking about Scottish politics, and you are welcome to it. It's good to be here. It's more relief than delight, actually, was I started to check all the setup about 12:30 this afternoon, final check, and nothing was working. I had checked it earlier on, everything was working. I checked it again at 12:30 and nothing was working. So there was a lot of panic, and I haven't got the preparation done that I had intended. Part of that preparation was a little feature, which it might become a regular feature. We'll see how it goes down. And I call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I thought what I'd do is I'll look at the National. I can't be bothered doing all the papers. I'll look at the National and I'll pick one story which is good, one which is bad, and one which I think is particularly ugly. The good news story, the tech thing that went wrong was I'm supposed to be able to show you the screens with the articles on the National website, but I couldn't make that work. So you're just going to have to take my word for it. The good news story is about Sandy Peggy, the nurse in Fife, who has been cleared of gross misconduct allegations. Which is excellent. It doesn't draw a line under that whole sorry episode with Fife Health Board, whichever the word board more aptly applied. It's been a sad 18 months, I think it's been going, and it's not quite over yet because she still has a tribunal, but I suspect that's going to be pretty straightforward. This is all repercussions of the dreadfully ill-thought gender recognition reforms and self-ID, which has created havoc. And we rather hoped that that had been knocked on the head by the UK Supreme Court's recent decision. But of course, the repercussions are ongoing. I believe there's now a case in Darlington where it's somewhat similar to the Sandy Peggy case, and well, you just wonder, how long is this going to go on? For Sandy Peggy herself, hopefully it's over. I'm going to do things in the wrong order here. Rather than the good, the bad, and the ugly, I'm going to go good, ugly, bad, if you don't mind. There's a reason for it. This is the one that I figured for the ugly story, and that's Scottish Tories in cronyism row as third ex-spin doctor gets public cash. I admit I've only skim-read the article. You don't need to read it all, do you? You just know what it is. And there's just a very bad smell coming off it. It's the gravy train. And it smacks too of that I spoke during the week there, well, somewhere about the three pillars of the British system, which are power and privilege and patronage. And I think in this story with the cash to ex-spin doctors, I think we see a bit of the patronage side of that going on. However, that's the bad, and I think you'll agree it's pretty bad. Now, the ugly, and this is a strange one. This is a strange one. I I have a great deal of respect and a certain fondness for Craig Murray, as do many people. But I I came upon his column in the National today, and I couldn't quite believe what I was reading. Uh, the headline is, "I've known Corbyn for years. I think he could help us to independence." Well, I've read and reread Craig's column, but I've yet to find any explanation of actually how he thinks Jeremy Corbyn is going to help us to independence. The guy, he's a unionist. He is a unionist. His comments and remarks published during the last few years, and particularly when he was Labour leader, these all point to someone who is at heart a unionist. You know, he wants the UK to remain whole. I looked up some of the quotes, and I won't bore you with them, but there were none of them, and he actually in one expressed his personal opinion that he thinks Scotland restoring independence would be a bad idea. So, there you have it. But the issue here really is that what Craig seems to be suggesting is that the Scottish part of this new party, about which we know very little, the Scottish part of it will somehow be pro-independence, even if the rest of it isn't. Now that we know can't happen. I mean, this should just be duplicating the arrangement with so-called Scottish Labour, where it is a branch office. It has no autonomy. It tried to pretend autonomy, but it's only if it was a separate, autonomous party could it possibly have a different policy, a different commitment on the constitutional issue. The same party cannot be unionist in England and pro-independence in Scotland. I'm pretty sure the Electoral Commission would have something to say about that. Imagine that would be. Imagine if British Labour decided that they would play this game and they were unionist, British nationalist in England, competing with the Tories to be the guardians of the Union. But in Scotland, Anna Sarwar was free to pursue a policy of supporting independence, or at least supporting the idea of a referendum with lots of conditions. That simply wouldn't work because it's all one party. It simply could not be. I'm pretty sure there's legal implications there. So I would have expected Craig Murray to know about that, and so I'm very surprised that he's writing as he does. It simply makes no sense to me. And strangely, he publishes this at exactly the same time as I have a letter published in the National, in the community section, and that's headlined Jeremy Corbyn's new outfit won't back IndyRef 2 no British party will. I didn't write the headline. You'd never catch me using the expression Indie Ref 2. It's an independence referendum. I prefer the term constitutional referendum, but it's perfectly correct and when it says no British party will, and no British party can. They simply cannot back a proper constitutional referendum. They might back a Section 30 referendum, but only because they know that can't possibly lead to independence. They can't do anything that will jeopardize the union. They can't do anything which would undermine their doctrine, the English doctrine of the sovereignty of Parliament. They cannot concede the sovereignty of the people in Scotland. If we had a proper, when we have a proper constitutional referendum, it will be a case of the people having the final say. And that just cannot coexist. That cannot happen in a system, the British system, where the doctrine applied is the sovereignty of Parliament. If Westminster is sovereign, Westminster has the last word. And if the people have the last word, Westminster isn't sovereign. So it simply cannot happen that any British party can possibly support a proper constitutional referendum. They may support a Section 30 referendum, but that is definitely not a proper constitutional referendum. So it's strange that these two items appeared at the same time. You could hardly say think of more opposed views. Jeremy Corbyn, Craig Murray seems to think that this new party will help the Scotland's cause, and I say it cannot possibly. Perhaps you'd like to let me know which of us you agree with on that, because I haven't had any questions since I arranged this broadcast. There's no questions have come in, which is slightly disappointing. But then this is a new venture, so we'll make allowances. I did give the email address to send them to, but I believe that I can receive messages through the chat on wherever you're watching this. If you comment, I believe they will come to me, although it seems I can't reply to any of these comments. I can't type out a reply to any of these comments, which is fine, because I couldn't be bothered. That would be too much of a distraction. So if you have any questions or any comments, then it's Proud Malcontent at peterabell.scot, or use the live chat, and we'll see what we get that way. I did get one question following, or actually during Sunday's broadcast. Sunday's show. I think I'm supposed to call it a show. And somebody there asked me how the Manifesto for Independence and the Scottish UDI plan, Scottish UDI process, how that differs from the Salvo Liberation Initiative and the likes of Liberate Scotland. Now, this is slightly problematic for me, especially with Liberate Scotland. Excuse me. Because Liberate Scotland is effectively a political party. And I would much rather try and avoid talking about other parties. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult because if they're saying something which is just wrong, I'm going to have to point it out. Yeah. But as far as possible, I'd rather just not talk about them, because I don't want to slip into that trap of being anti this and anti that. I don't want to slip into that trap where all you've got to say is something bad, in the way that ALPA only has bad things to say about the SNP. However justified they are, I want to hear more about ALPA from ALPA. Just as I want to hear more about SNP from the SNP, not them complaining about Westminster or whatever. On the constitutional issue I'm focusing on here, I would like to hear more from both these parties about exactly what it is that they intend to do. So I'd rather not talk about Liberate Scotland or ALPA, but I'm obliged to do so, because they are selling themselves as pro-independence parties. They are claiming to be a party of independence, if not the party of independence. But I think you'd be expecting the but there. But there is no plan. None of them have explained exactly what it is that they intend to do. None of them have said that if they return to Parliament, if they are in government, what would be the first thing that they actually do? Now, looking at their websites and looking at the manifestos and looking at statements from leading party figures, all I can see either the SNP or ALPA doing is putting in another Section 30 request. Both parties try to avoid mentioning Section 30 as far as possible. They say things like negotiations with Westminster, or there was one expression which I thought was, I think it was Humza Yousaf that came up with this one. It was asking Westminster to give democratic legitimacy to the decision made by the people of Scotland. Hang on, the people of Scotland are sovereign. We don't need Westminster to give our decision democratic legitimacy. That has our decision, when it is made, has all its own democratic legitimacy, all the democratic legitimacy it needs. If that is a decision made, if it's a choice made in a proper constitutional referendum, that is the end of the matter. That's all there is to say about it. So they try to avoid talking about Section 30, but both parties talk about entering into negotiations with Westminster. Well, why? This was when the SNP was in favour of a de facto referendum. I'm not sure if they still are. I haven't checked recently. They've had a habit of chopping and changing on this. But it's when they did talk about a de facto referendum, using an election as a pretendy referendum, they were talking about making it about independence. So let's suppose that de facto referendum happened. This is still ALPA policy, as far as I can make out. But it may no longer be SNP policy. It's not clear what the SNP plans to do. Some of them are talking about years, up to 50 years down the line. Yeah? And John Swinney's answer is all about persuading more people that independence is the best thing, which is that is another matter, which I have to. I'm just making a note of that because I will forget. that's another matter that I'll have to get to. He talks about persuading people to yes. He talks about needing the polls uh, to reflect a, a, a substantial and sustained majority in favour of independence. And when that happens, presumably, the attitude seems to be that when that happens, Westminster will crumble. The British government will crumble. They will say, "Oh, okay, that's it. Independence it is." No, that won't happen. It simply won't. Scotland is too valuable to them. The union, preserving the union, is too much of an imperative for England. Or England as Britain, as the expression that I prefer. So it simply isn't going to happen. It's politically naive to think that there's some sort of magic number on the opinion polls that's going to change the British state's mind. It's not going to happen. But Alapa are still with the de facto referendum thing, and they're pushing that hard. The 2026 election should be a de facto referendum. Well, in the first place, it won't work. It's not going to be a de facto referendum unless the SNP agree. If there's only one party is standing on the policy of it being a de facto referendum, and none of the others are, and I'll get to the others in a minute, then it's really just gesture politics. I mean, according to the polls, Alapa aren't even showing on the summary of the polls that I follow on a site called Election Polling. Alapa aren't even showing. So their chances of even getting anybody a seat in Holyrood are very slim. But they still say that it's going to be a de facto referendum, but I simply don't see how that could work unless all the parties in favour of that idea. They're simply saying if there's a majority for a majority of seats go to independent supporting parties, then that's it. No, not quite, because and according to the Alapa website, at that point they enter into negotiations with Westminster. Well, the only thing Westminster is going to negotiate, the only thing Westminster can negotiate, is a Section 30 referendum. And we know for a fact that a Section 30 referendum cannot lead to independence. It is not a proper constitutional referendum. It is consultative and non-self-executing. A proper constitutional referendum needs to be determinative and self-executing. So for two reasons there, the de facto referendum simply isn't going to work. The third reason is that the Scottish Parliament doesn't have the power. It doesn't have the legislative competence to declare independence. So what Alpa are looking for is Westminster's agreement, to somehow get by that. And one of the ways that they're suggesting to get by this is Ash Regan's bill to ask Westminster, right away we've got a problem, to ask Westminster to transfer. Now, I should correct myself here. I think Ash Regan's bill is actually intended to be, I don't think it's even drafted yet, but it's intended to be about using a de facto referendum or having a referendum of some kind on asking Westminster to transfer powers to Holyrood, so that Holyrood could, the Scottish Parliament could authorise, legislate for a referendum. But the only powers they're going to transfer are Section 30 powers. They can't transfer any other powers. So the transfer powers thing doesn't work either. It doesn't. For the Scottish Parliament to have the powers it needs, the legislative competence in matters relating to the Union, the Scottish Parliament will have to take those powers. It will have to take that legislative competence. It will have to assert it. That is the only way it can happen. Real power is only taken, it is never given. What is given is an affirmation of the power of the giver. They're affirming their power to give, which the corollary of which is the power to take away. So there is simply no way that this de facto referendum can work, or the transfer powers idea. It's been mooted before. Neil Hanvey had a bill in Westminster. I think it was under the 10-minute rule, and he was asking for something very similar. He was asking for transfer powers. He wanted the bill didn't go. It was never going to go through. It was put up just to be knocked down. But as I say, transfer powers can't possibly work, because Westminster can only transfer powers such as a Section 30, which would be a very constrained referendum, which it could not be final, it could not be conclusive, it could not be decisive, it would not end the matter. When we vote for independence, I want it to be conclusive, decisive, so that there is no argument. And that means having a proper constitutional referendum, a referendum that is binary and self-executing and determinative. A referendum on an actual proposal that people can read, so that they know exactly what they're voting for. They know exactly what ensues from their vote. That is a proper constitutional referendum, and we will not get that from Westminster. The other parties, well, under other, it's rather strange, this, because we talk about the SNP, we're talking politics in Scotland. We talk about the SNP, and we talk about ALPA as the second party, if you like, the second ranking. Yeah, ALPA have no elected members. They have no MSPs. Sorry, they have just the one MSP, but they have no elected MSPs. Ash Reagan is, of course, ALPA MSP, and she's quite entitled to be. We've been through that on my blog and in the comments on the National. We've been through that. She has to follow her conscience. That is her job as a constituency MP. She's a representative, not a delegate. So it's rather strange that we should regard ALPA as a second, but we have to have something to compare. We can't just talk about the SNP when we're talking about the constitutional issue, because there are other parties with claims to be nominally pro-independence. So we have to give them some kind of mention, and we have to rank them in some way. So ALPA comes second to the SNP, and the others trail behind. ALPA isn't even showing in the summary of the polling for the 2026 Holyrood election. Then the others are even further off the scale. I say this not to mock them. I don't say that in a sneering way. I just say that is the fact. They're not polling anything at the moment. That doesn't mean they've no right to exist. This is an attitude that some people take. You're too small to do anything. Yeah. But and they adopt that sneering attitude. But no, if somebody starts a political party, there's a lot of work involved, as I have learned, and they deserve to be taken seriously. When it comes to their policies and positions, on the other hand, well, they have to be judged on merit. And as far as Alpha is concerned, well, yeah, they have some very reasonable, quite attractive policies, but very little chance of getting them implemented. And besides, it's mainly the constitutional issue that I am concerned with, because all the other issues flow from that. Pretty much all the other things, all the things that any party has a real ambition to do in Scotland and do differently in Scotland, none of them can be done until independence is restored. So that's kind of a side issue to the constitutional question. But on the constitutional question, as I explained, ALPA is just useless, just as useless as the SNP. Both parties have nothing meaningful to say on the constitutional issue. They want to just keep on selling the independence like it's a holiday destination, like it has been the way since 2012, 2013. That's the way that the campaign has been run. That's been the whole approach, the underlying approach, the gentle persuasion, as Pete Wishart calls it. And we know that since some point in 2014, I reckon mid to late summer 2014, that simply stopped working. That's the persuasion issue. But I was going to mention other parties, and that would have to be Liberate Scotland. I have no idea what Liberate Scotland are proposing to do, supposing they get anybody elected, which, as I say, according to polling, is very unlikely. But they are allowed to state what they would do if they had the power to do it. And people judge them on that. People give their votes on the basis of what parties say about what they would do if they had the power. The fact that they're highly unlikely to get that power doesn't prohibit them developing policies and taking positions. But as far as Liberate Scotland's position on the constitutional issue is concerned, I'm a bit stumped. I can't really figure it out at all. From what I've gleaned, and remember, I don't really want to be doing this. It's up to Liberate Scotland and the parties. I think there are 3 parties involved in that. It's up to them to explain their policy. But I tried to get an explanation, and the best I can come up with, the best I can describe it from what I have gleaned, is that it depends on them, first of all, getting into government. But, well, I'm afraid that's just out of the question. That is certainly not going to happen. But they then, it then just seems to be, we declare independence. There's no process. The parliamentary procedures aren't taken into consideration. The issue of legislative competence isn't addressed. The issues when they come up against the the Scotland Act, and in particular the powers of the presiding officer and the Lord Advocate. None of these things seem to be addressed. The attitude that was exhibited to me at the time that I had this exchange with what I suppose I'm entitled to call a leading figure in Liberate Scotland. The attitude was that once they're in government, they can do whatever they like. No, I don't think so. That's not how it works. There are balances. There are rules, the regulations. There's checks and balances. That's the term that I was looking for. The checks and balances, even on the British government. The British government is a prime example of power being accumulated by the executive, and particularly by the Prime Minister. In most European democracies, they would look at the powers that a British Prime Minister has, and they would be thinking, well, yeah, that's not that much different from an absolute monarch or a dictator. Which stands to reason when you think about it, since all powers the Prime Minister exercise derive from the Crown. So, but there are still checks and balances. The British government haven't yet started dismantling those checks and balances in the way that Trump is doing in America. They have centralized power. This massive accumulation of power. They're not even effectively answerable to Parliament anymore. Because in British elections, it's winner takes all. And once they've got power, once they have a big majority, a working majority, once they have a majority as big as Starmer has, then nothing can touch them. They can literally do whatever they please, almost. There are things that the civil servants will say, no, that won't, you can't do that. But the checks and balances they're well worn down. We still have some checks and balances here in Scotland mainly because the Scottish Parliament is a branch of Westminster, an executive branch of Westminster. So we have all the checks and balances that Westminster opposes, that the British state imposes through the Scotland Act, which is effectively about creating a parliament. I would put it that it's reinstating, restoring the ancient Scottish Parliament, but in chains. It's shackled. It's bound up. It's not free. It's not free to move. It's not free to function as a proper national parliament because of the chains that have been that it has been bound up in. And most of these chains are represented by the Scotland Act. So these things have to be addressed when you're talking about breaking the union. You have to be able to say how you're going to get by these various things. And I'm finding no explanation from any of the parties as to how they would get by these things. The presiding officer and the Lord Advocate are bound by law to stop any debate in the Scottish Parliament, any legislation going through the Scottish Parliament on matters relating to the union. That is reserved. So they would stop. They would stop. any bill going through. And simply declaring independence is meaningless. Independence doesn't happen until there's an active parliament enacting the dissolution of the union. So this is why I say that the first thing that has to be done is that the Scottish Parliament has to take the legislative competence. It has to assert it. Just say, we're taking it. That is it. And the presiding officer will then have to go along with it, because that is no longer reserved. Or they could choose to not go along with it, and that's another matter. That also can be dealt with. Presiding officers can be removed. But that is the first step. That has to be the first step. Once that legislative competence is asserted, it's then possible for us to have a proper constitutional referendum to exercise our right of self-determination, a human right. So asserting competence, legislative competence in the area of the Constitution, matters relating to the Union, is also making the issue a human rights issue, because it focuses on our ability to exercise, fully and properly exercise our right of self-determination. At the moment, we can't. We're blocked from doing so, not by Westminster, but by our own government here in Scotland, which stands by Westminster's asserted veto. Westminster asserts that power, that asserts its veto over our right of, over the exercise of our right of self-determination, and the Scottish government doesn't challenge that. It just goes along with it. So getting that legislative competence, and everything flows from there. But to get that legislative competence, it would be better if the Parliament had a direct mandate from the people of Scotland, which is why I say, if the 2026 election is to be a de facto referendum, then make it about the powers of the Scottish Parliament. Make it about the legislative competence of the Scottish Parliament to enable the exercise of our right of self-determination. For a start, it will be much easier to get majority support for that than for independence. All indications, all surveys, like the social attitudes survey, they all indicate a lot of support for more powers for the Scottish Parliament. There's also a lot of support, majority support, even more than for independence. There's a majority support for another referendum. So you put these two things together, and if you're making the election a de facto referendum about the powers of the Scottish Parliament, then you've got the majority support already there. So it should be relatively easy to get that mandate, and quite a substantial mandate. I really expect that it would go over 60%. It would be pretty conclusive. So the Scottish Parliament would then have that backing from the people of Scotland to assert the legislative competence, as I spoke about. All right, it sounds a lot more complicated than just saying declare independence. Of course, it is a lot more complicated, or it's a bit more complicated, because it's a process. It's a process that addresses the problems, the issues, the barriers, the hurdles, addresses them and surmounts them, or goes around them, or digs a tunnel under them. It actually addresses them. It doesn't just ignore the issues. So That's a referendum, and a de facto referendum. And none of the nominally pro-independence parties has shown any interest in this idea, and that's probably not surprising. Because for it to work, for the Scottish UDI plan to work, we would need bold, imaginative, determined, resolute politicians. We don't have any of those. And that's our fault. We elect them. We, the people, elect them. So if we have crappy politicians and crappy political parties, nobody to blame but us. We are sovereign. We are the ultimate authority. There's nobody to blame over us. We elect that parliament. It's our parliament. Like it or not, that is our parliament. So that's a de facto referendum dealt with. Let's see, how's the time going? I think I have about 20 minutes left. So I want to have a wee word about this persuading. This is John Swinney's mantra in particular, is that what we have to do is persuade more people. And I don't hear the term soft nose used quite so much these days. And that's a good thing because there aren't any soft nose. What we have left, since the 2014 referendum campaign, we got all the low-hanging fruit with that campaign. The happy clappy campaign of bigging up independence and saying how great it would be, all the things that we could do if only we had independence, and wouldn't it be a very nice thing if only the British would give it to us. Not a lot of talk about taking it, but we all went along with that, and it was quite successful. It took the support from somewhere around the 28% to the 45% that we actually got in the referendum. So that was pretty good. But, as I say, it stopped working even before the vote was taken, even before polling day in September 2014. This happy clappy, always positive, always smiling, gentle persuasion, this approach has simply stopped working. It had come up against a wall. And so it has been ever since, because the only thing remotely like a campaign that there has been since 2014 is a constant flow. It's not an all-out focused campaign, but there's this constant flow of people saying how much better independence would be. Now there are actually people talking against the union, which is a good thing, though they're not doing it strongly enough, in my opinion. But the selling independence like a holiday destination came up against this wall, and that wall is not made of soft nose. It's not even got a coating of soft nose. That wall is made up of 2 layers, and right at the back, you've got the hardline unionists, the British nationalists. That is preserve the mob that will preserve the union at any cost. You know, they could quarry the whole of Scotland for building projects in England. They could quarry the whole bloody country, and these unionists would still be saying, preserve the union, because it's like a religion to them. There's maybe even religious connotations in it. But I don't know. I don't understand that kind of hardline unionism. But they're the back. There's no point in us even talking to them. But before them, and the potential where these votes will come from are the people who don't vote. That's first of all the people who have walked away from the Yes campaign, walked away from being Yes voters, walked away from the independence issue since 2014, mostly in disgust at the SNP. That a lot of people have walked from the SNP, and a lot of them just walked from the whole business of independence altogether. We saw that, we've seen that in elections over the last 14 years, with the pro-independence vote simply not turning out. That is where the first tranche of the votes that we need, the pro-independence sentiment that we need, that's where we get the first tranche. And the second tranche is the people who never vote, the people who are alienated, who are totally disconnected. The way we get to them is by making them angry. An outright appeal to emotion. Make them angry. Make them angry at the union. They're entitled to be angry. If they have been alienated from the democratic system, then they have been treated badly. They have been treated unfairly. Something must have done the alienating. Right? So they are entitled to be angry. And as for the walkers, the walkers away rather than the never vote, the people who walked away, the way we get them back, how to get them back, is actually to do something, or at least show intent to do something specific, to have a plan, to say, this is how we're going to do it. Because if people don't know how you're going to do it, it's difficult for them then to believe that it's going to happen. And if they don't believe it can happen, a lot of people just won't bother. They simply won't bother. A lot of us have doubts about whether it's going to happen, at least in the short term. But we're the Anarchists. We're committed. We keep banging away at it anyway. So that is where the votes come from. John Swinney is wrong. He's got that wrong, as he's got a lot of other things wrong. There's no soft nose. The gentle persuasion thing simply won't work. We need a hard-hitting plan to get back the people who've walked away, and we need a campaign to rouse the non-voters. That way, we'll get the 5 to 10 points that we really need. We'd certainly get the 5 to 10 points that would make a de facto referendum on parliamentary powers decisive, absolutely decisive. Let them try taking us to court when we've got 70% in favour of the Parliament asserting its powers. That's going to be kind of tricky, especially with it being a human rights issue. Right, this is somebody has been in touch. Bill Cowan saying no power exceeds the rights of the majority. Westminster will not have any say. Only if you accept Westminster has the power. That is precisely the point. I'm trying to find what there was the first comment. Anna McHugh just says UDI. Well, yeah, the Scottish UDI. I insist on calling it Scottish UDI because it is a plan. John Love says a referendum followed by a request for international recognition. Well, that's getting it a bit wrong. That's not the way international recognition works. You don't request it. You either get it or you don't. And it's not absolutely essential anyway. There are countries that are independent and functioning quite well without 100% global recognition. The whole international recognition thing is not an issue. It will follow automatically anyway from the confirmatory referendum that I am proposing, that is part of the Scottish UDI plan. That confirmatory referendum, I envisage that being overseen by the UN. They will have UN oversight. Which is why I say, apart from Scottish UDI and the Manifesto for Independence, the only other campaign at the moment, which is worth supporting for proper independent, no, I can never say that word, for proper independence supporters, is the Salvo Liberation campaign to have the UN put Scotland on the list of non-self-governing territories. That would be very helpful. On its own, it doesn't do anything. We've got to have a local and internal party and political parliamentary process that has to be in place to take advantage of this recognition by the UN. But in either case, I would envisage the referendum being overseen by the UN. So international recognition should pretty much automatically follow from that. A referendum overseen by the UN with a fairly decisive vote in favour. I suspect that international recognition would not be a problem. There's somebody is mentioning Schedule 5 of the Scotland Act, which lists the powers which are reserved, or as I prefer to call it, withheld. The powers that are withheld from the Scottish Parliament, powers that the Scottish Parliament should have, but they're withheld by the British state. Now, there's one here from somebody. Let me read this. This is interesting guidance note attached to Schedule 5 of the Scotland Act 1998, which somehow got lost. Would love to hear your opinion on it. It says that the original intent of any reservation has to be considered in a Section 30 order request. I'm sorry, I'm not quite understanding that. It may be because I'm a little distracted here, but I'm not quite understanding that point about the note attached to. I'm going to have to come back to that. I'm going to have to get in touch with this person. I can't message them from here, and it's almost time up anyway. I'll have to get back to this person, and perhaps it can be the first issue that I address on Sunday. And please note that on Sunday it will be 10 o'clock, 10 until 11. Rather than 11 o'clock as it was last Sunday. That's because I've been told there's a clash with something else. So I have shifted the time back to 10 o'clock. In the meantime, please get in touch with any questions, any comments you have about this live stream. But please make allowances. I'm new to this, and I really didn't want it all to be my talking head. I wanted to find some other pieces to put in. There is the facility to do that. I will do better. We shall develop this. It will be better. I also intend to invite people for discussion, or invite people to come online and ask their questions in person. I'm quite happy to do that. And the email address again, which I should have put on that ticker, which is running along across the bottom of the screen with the Manifesto for Independence petition URL. The email address is very easy to remember. It's proudmalcontent at peterabell.scott. So I look forward to having some questions to answer in the next issue, and being prepared to do this good, the bad, and the ugly slot as well. And if any of you have any ideas for other stuff that we could do in this hour, then please, by all means, get in touch. For the moment, it's just about time for me to close. There's about a minute to go, and I suppose you won't mind if I shut down a little bit early. I have someone here saying that they've enjoyed listening to this, and thank you. And I hope you all have enjoyed it. I hope it's been entertaining or engaging in some way. And I'll see you all on Sunday. Bye.